2021 has already seen record high temperatures in Antarctica, intense flooding in Western Germany, Henan in China, and Mumbai in India. Heat waves roasted Western US and Canada, and Madagascar had a drought. These events, according to climate scientists, are consequences of climate actions not taken in the past. Today, all countries must significantly raise their climate ambitions to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade. But we also need to examine what exactly happened with the climate commitments that were made in the past. We need to look at the actions of the developed countries who emitted the majority of the carbon. Which are the countries that have truly met the commitments they made under previous climate treaties like the Kyoto Protocol and the Doha Amendment? And which are the countries that have not? The Council on Energy, Environment and Water, an independent think tank, has developed a first-of-its-kind Pre-2020 climate action ranking to address this question. The rankings are analysed and rated on a country's seriousness and faithfulness towards climate action, that is sincerity, and the overall mitigation performance, that is action. Here's a snapshot of the rankings. European countries such as Sweden, the UK, Belgium, Denmark and Finland top the rankings. On the other hand, the other major industrialized countries such as the US, Canada and Australia are at the bottom of the charts. But why are these countries where they are in the rankings? Sweden, for instance, tops the chart because it participated in the pre-2020 climate agreements, it did not take undue advantage of accounting provisions, it emitted 19% and 34% less than its estimated carbon space under the Kyoto Protocol and Doha Amendment, and it also voluntarily cancelled its emission allowances. UK, the host of COP26, and the other top performers did well on most of these parameters too. The USA, on the other hand, performed rather poorly because it did not participate in the pre-2020 climate agreements, and it emitted 11% and 26% more than its estimated emission allowance under the Kyoto Protocol and the Doha Amendment. Overall, did the developed countries meet the targets set till 2020? No. Their emissions declined only by 14.8%. This did not even meet their already weak target of an 18% minimum reduction below 1990 levels. But the story does not end here. Many of the participating countries use certain accounting provisions to carve out additional carbon space for themselves. For example, Australia, it gained additional carbon space of about 24% by including deforestation emissions in the base year. Countries like Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Poland, Romania, and others also gained additional carbon space. How did they do this? Well, between 1990 and 1997, several countries went through an economic downturn following the collapse of the Soviet Union. The choice of 1990 as the base year, therefore, helped them gain additional carbon space without any emission reduction effort. To sum up, the developed countries have collectively used up additional carbon space of about 25 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent by taking advantage of accounting provisions. 25 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent is more than half of the world's greenhouse gas emissions in 2019. Why is any of this significant for climate action post-2020? First, because we have limited carbon space as we move forward in the post-2020 climate agreements. Second, the additional consumption of the carbon space by developed countries in the pre-2020 now demand more enhanced climate actions by all countries. Third, developing countries too require additional carbon space to meet their development priorities and raise the standard of living of their populations. So, how do we ensure climate justice and equitable prosperity in the post-2020 period?
The burden of these gaps that are emerging from the pre-2020 period should not be transferred to developing countries, but instead be tackled amongst the developed countries themselves. There are a few different ways in which we can try to make this happen. First of all, developed countries that did not participate in the previous climate agreements could purchase unsold certified emissions reductions and cancel their unearned carbon emission allowance. Secondly, to ensure continued commitment to climate goals that are now being tabled, we need to ensure transparency by strengthening both accounting and compliance mechanisms. And then finally, the easy exits that we've seen in the past from climate agreements need to be stringently restricted. The onus of emission reduction was placed on developed countries, but past failures to adhere to targets cannot be undone today. It is our problem-solving approach and our governance that needs to be fixed. We need to do so to ensure that we're not only delivering for ourselves, but for the world.